Hello, I'm Frost and welcome to my December update, and we've got lots to cover. And in this episode I'm going to be talking about Phoenix Point, Halo, Interstellar Prime, Mechwarriors, Detroit Becomes Human, Stellaris, X-War Foundations, Industries of Titan, Half-Life and EVE Online. So off we go. Welcome back. Right, so I'm going to start off straight away with new releases for this month, for December. And the first on my list is Phoenix Point. Now, Phoenix Point is a turn-based strategy game. So if you've been playing Planetfall and following my Planetfall videos, it's the manual combat. And it's actually by the creator of XCOM, a guy called Julian Gollop. And it's coming out through Snapshot Games. Let me fire that up now on my screen. There we go. So that's going to come up and we're going to get, obviously, there we go, Snapshot Games. And the game is Phoenix Point. Comes out on the 3rd of December. And I am going to be covering this game because it really does appeal to me. I do like the kind of sort of the skirmish warfare, manual combat side of things. And they've actually moved on from they lose a lot of the XCOM mechanics. But the issue with the original XCOM was that some of the mechanics were a bit skewed. And you know, you'd be shooting someone point blank in the face and you would still miss. It was kind of really bizarre how the mechanics worked. And apparently they've ironed that out. And as you can see right here, you know, we've got all the usual kind of features. So we've got Overwatch, like that. There we go. You know, you can move stuff around. What's really nice as well is this guy there on my screen. He's basically got a jetpack. So we actually work on different levels as well. So he's going to sort of zoom up on top of the building. Here he goes. So great little animation as well, like that. There we go. And so, you know, you can basically have snipers on top of buildings looking down with good field of view and all that kind of stuff. So I'm probably going to be covering this about a week after it comes out. I can't do it before then because I like to get at least kind of 20-30 hours minimum on a game before I start covering it, so I kind of really understand it well. And also I'm traveling that week, so it's going to be a bit of a squeeze. So it's about a week after I'm going to start doing some videos on Phoenix Point. So there you go, 3rd of December. But also on the 3rd of December, we have another release, which is, to me, is epic. And blood and violence, be warned, Halo. Halo is finally coming to the PC properly. And this is just epic. So it's the Master Chief Collection that was originally released on the Xbox 360. And it's all been redone in terms of the textures and graphics. So it'll now support 4K, it'll support HDR. It's going to look glorious. And we're going to get, it's basically going to come out in chronological order in regards to the lore. So the first one that's been released on 3rd of December, same day as Phoenix Point, is Halo Reach. And then we're going to get, what's the name of it? Combat Involved, then Halo 2, Halo 3, ODST, and then Halo 4. All right, so they're going to come out over a period of time. By the way, I should have mentioned Phoenix Point. That's coming out in the Epic Games Store only, which has been a bit of a contention issue. But Halo, on the other hand, is coming out not only on the Microsoft Store, as you would expect, but it's also going to be released on Steam. And this is a really cool thing that we're starting to see now, that EA Games have done the same thing with Fallen Order, is that now the publishers are starting to realize that they can't just have their own platform, that we as consumers, we choose our platforms. We like to use Steam, we like to use GOG, we like to use, you know, various other platforms, and we should therefore have the choice as to what platform we buy our games from. You know, especially if we want to sort of share achievements with friends and things like that, then, you know, we want to be using the same platform as our friends, and so to be forced onto a particular sales platform isn't really the way to go. And now the studios, you know, seem to be aware of that. So like I said, Steam, you know, is coming out, Halo is coming out on Steam on 3rd of December, and that'll be Halo Reach. And you can either buy them individually as titles, and they're really well priced, by the way, as well, or you can buy the whole collection for what is a good price as well. So, you know, I'm in the UK, so I'm not going to give you prices because you may be in US dollars or euros or whatever. So, but the price point is good. You know, it's well under what you would pay for a AAA game for the whole collection, which is brilliant. So there you go. So that's Halo. So we're going to move away from the demo of Halo, but doesn't it just look glorious? I'm just really pleased with it. That's going to be excellent. So let's pause that for a sec. There we go. All right, so after that we have Interstellar Prime. Now Interstellar Prime is kind of one of those interesting ones because Interstellar Prime is a Kickstarter, and they managed to get their money earlier in the year, the $30,000 they were looking for. And we had a kind of an alpha demo that came out a couple of months ago, and on the 7th of this month it goes into early access on Steam. Now, it looks gorgeous. It's kind of EVE Online X4 kind of thing, and it is rather ambitious. It wants to be, I think, a third-person shooter, an RTS game, and a strategy game. And for a small development company, I think that's really pushing it. But we'll see what happens. I'm going to try and download the early access and get involved with that, from the beginning. And it'll be interesting to see how well they progress with it. I personally think that, they should focus on a particular area first, kind of get that nailed before moving on to, let's say, RTS or strategy. If they try and do everything at once, it's going to be a lot of mediocre rather than being good in one thing and then expanding upon that. But, they're the developers. I'm sure they know what they're doing and where they're going with it. But anyway, looks interesting. It looks like a good little sci-fi romp, and so I'm going to be downloading this. All right, so we'll pause that one. Okay, now next one up is on the 10th. See, busy December. On the 10th, now we have, here we go, Mechwarriors 5. Now, I have to say this is not a type of game that I usually play. Obviously, there's Mechwarriors 5 coming out. I haven't played the previous Mechwarriors, so I can't really comment on it. Also, there's another similar style game from Paradox Interactive called Battletech. So, if you're familiar with these games, then, please do talk about it in the comments. Let me tell me your thoughts. Mechwarriors, Battletech, which is the better game? Which ones do fans of this genre particularly like? I'd be really interested to know. I may download it and play with it and, just get used to it and be aware of it. But I wanted to bring it to your attention in case, this kind of game is really your thing. Then coming on to something else, which is not quite a new release, but it's a port just like Halo, and that is Detroit Becomes Human. Now, this came out on the PS4 in May 2018, and it's an adventure game. It's a live action movie, if you want to call it that, where you play a protagonist and you have choices and you have to make those choices, and based on those choices different events happen. But it looks gorgeous. I mean, the graphics on it, the visuals are really something else. I'm very impressed by that, and I think it's one of those games that you want to sit down in an evening and you don't want to watch a movie, you don't want to play a game, you want to have sort of the halfway ground, then this is it. And from what I understand of the game, it's quite emotionally charged as well, with some of the decisions that you have to make within the game. And I am going to be adding that to my list, and over the holidays I will definitely be playing Detroit Becomes Human. So there you go. So that's kind of all the major releases that are happening this month. We also have one more release, which is still scheduled for this month, but it's not actually been given a date yet, and that's Stellaris Foundation. So this is a DLC. Now, I played Stellaris a little bit, and I've only played the basic game. I haven't played all the DLCs. There's a lot of DLCs. And, but obviously, this adds another element to it. And I know the Stellaris fans are out there, and you love this game, and you love the fact you've got all these DLCs. And that dude on the left does not look happy, right? Considering he's just joined a federation, he should be like, yay. So there's something going on there. But anyway, so Stellaris Federations, that should hopefully still be coming out this month. This is Paradox again, the guys that make Planetfall and make Battletech. They're normally pretty good, on their release dates. So I'm not expecting slippage on that. And hopefully it will come out this month for all of you that like Stellaris. But also on Stellaris, if you're a fan, I'm going to mention this quickly. Stellaris have brought out their soundtrack on vinyl. So if you like your records and you're aficionado of your your good music and everything, and you, for some reason, you play Stellaris for hours and you love the music so much you want to listen to it for hours on vinyl, then you can. And it's available now. You can buy it, and then I think it gets delivered sometime early next year. So just to bring that to your attention, Stellaris soundtrack is now on vinyl. Let me pop that back. Okay, so that's that. Now, next up is unfortunately stuff that's been delayed. This was due to come out, sometime before the end of 2019, and that's X4 Split Vendetta and the 3.0 release. So this was announced at Gamescom back in, was it August? Yeah, August, and unfortunately it's still not out, and it looks like it's going to slip now into 2020. Now, obviously X4 is one of those games, it's kind of really improved with each version that's come out, and 2.5, was it 2.5, 2.6 was a good jump, and they fixed a lot of things, and I think I mentioned that in my previous update. And here we're going to have the Split Vendetta, we're going to be able to trade with them, we're going to be able to have their ships and all this kind of stuff. They're going to expand the universe, and it's going to be cool. And obviously if it's 3.0, hopefully they're going to do more work on the AI with the trading and all that kind of stuff. And but unfortunately it's been delayed, so hopefully we'll get it soon into early 2020, so we can get our holiday blues with X4 Foundations. Then the other one, which is kind of now becoming famous for this, Industries of Titan. That was originally slated to be released before the end of the year. I think GOG's still showing it as 2019. Steam's now showing it as an early 2020 release. What it is, it's kind of like a SimCity city builder with a bit of RTS in it. Looks really cool. But unfortunately, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer for Industries of Titan. So that's a shame. I am really looking forward to that game. Okay, then next up we have announcements. Now this one is kind of like a huge deal, and also I think it's going to upset a lot of people at the same time. And that is Valve are making another Half-Life game. Now the last Half-Life game was like 2007, and it was like Half-Life 2 Episode 2. And the one thing that was kind of unexpected with the announcement, it's going to be a VR game. And so if you haven't got VR set up, you're not going to be able to play it. Now, we have no idea at this stage, as far as I know, whether Valve are actually ever going to release it as a non-VR. And this is planned for, I think, March 2020. It's going to be a busy spring with Kerbal and Cyberpunk and all of that arriving as well. And it's called Half-Life Alyx. So rather than playing, is it Gordon Freeman, you play Alyx, and she's the protagonist in this one. But it's still, the same sort of, you're fighting, is it the Combine? It's so long ago since I played this game, like 2000 and something. But yeah, it's still the same world. You play a different character, but it's VR. But it's coming for March 2020. And so Valve have been producing this for the last 2 years, being very secret squirrel about it, but now it's been announced. So there we go. Okay, other things to cover. We're nearly there. Next up is EVE Online. Now, as you can see from the t-shirt, I was at EVE London, and that took place on the 23rd of November. And it was a bit of a bizarre one. I've been to FanFest, I've been to EVE Vegas, and this was, normally EVE London is a gathering organised by EVE-NT, and they do a great job of organising events. And this was kind of supposed to be like the EVE Invasion World Tour, but it was almost like kind of CCP just ran out of steam for this one. There was kind of no major announcements of any kind, and it was more just Hilmar and CCP Berger kind of, sort of babbling away and sort of pontificating and talking about EVE development over the years and kind of where it's going. But it was kind of much more of a kind of sort of bar-side chat than a formal presentation. But it was still good to go. It's still good to be involved with that. Obviously the main thing with CCP now is, especially over the next few weeks, is that they've just recently moved to like a 2-week cadence development, where they're releasing new features every 2 weeks, and then they're going to hot fix on the fly and try and be much more reactive. So that's going to be interesting. I'm sure they tried to do that a couple of years ago, and then it kind of went off the boil, and they went back to their traditional kind of sort of big update every 3 months. So it's going to be interesting where that goes. Obviously, right now, the first beginning of this kind of 2-week cadence, we had the Triglavian Dreadnought just be released, which looks totally OP in terms of DPS. If you play Eve, it's like crazy. So it'll be interesting to see if they kind of fix that like 2 weeks later. And there's new blueprints and new implants and stuff for Triglavian weapons and things like that. So that's pretty cool. Then I think there's Rapid Fire's going to come out sort of very beginning of December, which is where they're going to make mods, buffs to, I think, the Tempest and medium artillery as well, and a few other things. But you can check the patch notes out for that. And then after that, we're going to find out as we go along. They are going to do some buffs to Citadels and some changes to Citadels. That's due this month as well in December. So yeah, it's very, very busy in EVE Online. Although kind of one of the main subjects that came up at EVE London is kind of stagnation in the kind of kind of nullsec community when you're dealing on an alliance and coalition level. You know, that it seems to be very difficult to get the conflict drivers. And one big announcement that was made at EVE London, which is very interesting, is that previously CCP devs could play EVE Online, but they had to do it anonymously. And if their identity was ever discovered as being a CCP dev, they had to immediately delete the account and remove themselves from the game. And they have now changed their policy. And this is a big deal because it means that a CCP dev can now join like a nullsec alliance and be involved in kind of big nullsec fights and experience the things that you can only do from being in a major alliance and being in big block fights. And hopefully then they'll get a much better understanding of, like, for example, as FCs, how the meta affects us, you know, and how it's like it's all Lokis every day. Why that happens, and you know, the difference between, you know, having an alliance that's really, really strong in terms of player skills versus an alliance like Horde that's really, really big on number of players, and how the meta affects each of those, you know, different sort of alliances in terms of the ships they use and the types of fights they end up having. So yeah, I'm really interested to see how that's going to pan out, and I'm sure CCP devs will be a welcome addition, and hopefully they won't have too much conflict of interest. Right, and the last thing, two last things I'm going to mention is the Game Awards. That's going to be on the 12th. And what's nice to see in the Game Awards is a lot of sci-fi games. Obviously Control, that came out quite quietly at the end of August, and that was kind of an Epic Games only thing, and I think that's really hurting studios now, like I said, about being released on just one platform. But The Outer Worlds is there, and The Outer Worlds, I have loved that game. It is really a beacon to all developers because this game came out on time and it came out as a finished game. It was just playable from day one, really well put together, really enjoyable. I still haven't done my beginner's guide because life happened, real life happened. I will do one because it's going to come out on Steam at some point as well. And so there'll be a whole bunch of new players. So I will still do a beginner's guide, even though it's going to be a month too late. But it will be hopefully a good one. But yeah, so we got The Outer Worlds, got Control, Death Stranding, which does qualify as sci-fi. You know, the list goes on. It's really nice to see Planetfall's in here as well, under Best Strategy Game. It's right down the bottom here somewhere. Come on, there we go. Strategy Game. So Planetfall's down here on the left. And, you know, we've got sort of, I think Outer Worlds has got like four nominations. And then, you know, we've got some of the smaller studios as well getting some good recommendation, like Outer Wilds has got an indie nomination. And then finally, one of the questions that got asked on kind of my comments is, am I going to stream? And the answer to that is that right now I can't do this full time. It's too early for me to do it full time. And my other commitments that I have mean that I am unable to be on at a specific time, sort of kind of every week or every other day. And so because I can't maintain a kind of regular schedule, you know, as a streamer, that's kind of something that's really expected of you, that you're kind of always on a Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific time or, you know, whatever. and I can't do that right now. But I'm hoping maybe around March, April, I will be, and I will probably go to Mixer as my choice of platform. And I think one of the really cool games or types of games to actually stream are RPGs, because they can go in so many different directions. So therefore, I would say that I will probably be playing Cyberpunk as my starting stream. I'm so looking forward to Cyberpunk. That is just going to be epic. Right, and I think that kind of wraps it up. So there you go. So I chatted for quite a while. We covered a lot of stuff. Please do leave comments. You know, if you like this particular format of mine and the kind of information I'm providing, then please do like, please subscribe, please hit the bell icon so you get notifications, as I do produce regularly. You know, even at this stage, I produce quite regularly, and I'm always looking to produce more content. And if you dislike, then, you know, let me know. Tell me what's not right. I really would like to know. And thank you very much for watching, and see you soon. Bye.